soul apart.
I guess that's one way to start this review.
Hello and welcome to the Cavern of Terror.
Hellraiser, 1987, stars Ashley Lawrence, Claire Higgins, Andrew Robinson, Doug Bradley, Sean Chapman, and is written and directed by Clive Barker. That's right, guys, we are here. We are on the Hellraiser review series here on the Cavern of Terror. Yes, I promised it, and we are here. Just a little bit of backstory before we get into the resulting review of the 1987 classic Hellraiser. I've only seen 5 films in the Hellraiser series. I've only seen the first 4 in the new Hulu original Hellraiser reimagining. So, along with you guys that haven't seen these movies, I am along the ride with you. So everything after the 4th one, excluding the reboot, I have not seen. So I'm going to go into the rest of the sequels after 4 with fresh eyes. With that said, let's get into the review of Clive Barker's Hellraiser. If you've never seen Hellraiser before, I'd say strap in, but you don't really have time to, because you see, this movie opens up immediately into the story. See, we open in a foreign land. We see Frank Cotton, played by Sean Chapman, who is purchasing a box that we will come to know very well throughout this franchise, and that is the Le Merchant puzzle box. Guys, I rarely ever start out a review talking about the score of a movie, but I absolutely have to here with Hellraiser. Out of every review that I've done here on Cavern of Terror, and that includes over 50 films, this has to be one of the best scores I've ever heard. Christopher Young's choice to go in a more orchestral direction rather than the synth that was dominating 80s horror at the time, I believe is a brilliant and masterful choice because it really adds to the dread that hangs over this story. And I'll be honest, I don't really recall getting another score like this Hellraiser score until Candyman comes along. Did I miss Rob Zombie in the cast list? I'm kidding, guys, this isn't Rob Zombie, but there is a homeless character that shows up in a couple of these Hellraiser films that I feel can be a little bit confusing to fans of the franchise that don't really know the mythology or who this character actually is supposed to be or what he turns into at the end of this movie, which is utter insanity. So let me explain it to you guys. What this character is the derelict or the puzzle box guardian in the words of the text. He's the person that, keeps an eye He's the thing that keeps an eye on the puzzle box and then returns it to where it's supposed to go next. I know it can be a little confusing for people that don't really dig deep into the mythology of Hellraiser, but I figured that I would lend a hand there. The first time I saw this movie, I was confused too. You are not alone. Moving on to the acting of the opening film of the Hellraiser franchise. Sometimes the acting can be great, and trust me, we will get into that. And other times, it can feel awkward, a little bit corny, but I don't think it's bad. I think there's a reason for that. I'll give you an example. Andrew Robinson, who portrays Larry, Christy's father and Julia's husband in the first film, he can come off as very oblivious to what's going on in this entire situation and can come off very much as an everyman type character at first. Really, if you think about it at the end of the day, if this movie doesn't have top-notch to at least serviceable acting and performances, this movie's really going to have a obstacle to overcome because it's very much character driven. Fortunately for us, we don't have that problem here. Are you guys ready? Because we're about to talk about who many will call the final girl of the Hellraiser franchise. That's right, we're about to talk about Ashley Lawrence and her character of Kirsty Cotton. First, and this is very, very important, big time stuff here on the Cavern of Terror channel. Gotta get it out of the way. Kirsty Cotton, Ashley Lawrence. now that that is out of the way, we can get back onto a serious note here, guys. This is a professional review. We could talk about how impressed I was with Ashley Lawrence and her performance here, and I should be, because this was her film debut. Lawrence's role as Kirsty actually carries a ton of emotion, especially in the third act. She's feeling a whole bunch of different things, and this has got to be really hard on someone that's doing their first film performance, and it's a horror movie, and it's a Clive Barker movie. That this has got to be immense pressure, and I think she did a fantastic job here, and I feel like this is why so many fans are so attached to the Kirsty Cotton character. I really enjoyed her performance. It had a ton of layers, and I was really impressed by it. When it comes to the villains of this first Hellraiser film, oh boy, guys, here we go. Let's look at the antagonists of the first Hellraiser movie as two sides of a coin. We all know that the face of the Hellraiser franchise is quite literally Doug Bradley and the other Cenobites. We all get that. But when you really look over this franchise with a fine-tooth comb, you'll see that there are several villains in this series. That, my friends, brings us to the first side of the coin, that side being Julia and Frank. Julia, played here by Claire Higgins, in my opinion, should be talked about much more often as a iconic villain and a tragic one in the horror genre. Higgins is fantastic in this opening chapter of the Hellraiser saga. I really enjoyed this performance of this torn and severely damaged character. I mean, how far would you go to bring someone you love back from hell? Can I be frank for a minute? Come on, guys, I had to bring some kind of humor to this video. There really isn't a lot of humor unless you like really dark stuff in the Hellraiser series. Frank Cotton is played expertly by Sean Chapman and Oliver Smith. I believe the best way to describe this performance is cold, calculating, emotionless. I mean, this is a sociopath to a T. This guy does not care what he has to do to accomplish his goal, and he is going to do it. Yes, you heard that right. Frank Cotton is actually played by two different actors. You get the more human version with skin that's played by Sean Chapman, and then you get the monstrous version that's played by Oliver Smith. Okay, guys, so if Julia and Frank were not enough, if those villainous characters were not enough, let's talk about the other side of the coin.
The box. You opened it. We came.
I don't really have enough room here to bow at the feet of Doug Bradley as the Hell Priest and the rest of the Cenobites, but I would if I could. Yes, the Cenobites are amazing, and that's probably the reason why 90% of you came to watch this review. Let's talk about them. The Cenobites are the complete opposite of our very human villains in Julia and Frank. You see, where Julia and Frank conceal their evil on the inside, well, more Julia than Frank because he has no skin. Anyway, the point is they conceal their evil on the inside. The Cenobites wear it on the outside, wrapped in leather. Now, I will warn you guys, if you came to this movie for predominantly a Doug Bradley performance as Pinhead, it's not really this movie. Yes, he does have those iconic lines in this one, like "I'll tear your soul apart" and the thing about suffering that is in this movie, but this is more the Frank and Julia show. We don't really get the Cenobites as the main focus until later. More, aptly Hellraiser 3. So if you came here to see Pinhead, you might leave disappointed.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
If you know me, guys, I am a huge fan of special effects makeup, and I will be the first to tell you that Hellraiser is a prime example of 80s special effects at its best. Whether it's on the Cenobites themselves or the other creatures, because there are other creatures in the first Hellraiser movie, I was in awe of Bob Keane and his team's work here. The design work alone is amazing, and it doesn't stop there. If you stray away from the special effects and go to the set design, it's just as detailed. I mean, you couldn't pay me $1 million to stay in the Cotton home. I mean, especially if you know what's hanging up in Frank's old room. I'm not going up there. I'd like to end this review talking about something that I feel like doesn't quite get mentioned enough with the Hellraiser movies, and especially the first movie, and that is the cinematography. Hellraiser did not have a high budget in the slightest. We all know where that money went, and it went into the special effects. With that said, I feel like they had to be doubly creative with the camera moves and the transitions, and I feel like that's criminally underrated here. I feel like they were very successful at keeping this movie interesting and rolling at a good clip when the Cenobites and the characters weren't on the screens. I think it was fantastic work. In the end, guys, I'm gonna have to give Hellraiser 1987 a Metal Claw. Metal Claw's over here. I can't remember, it's been so long. I mean, guys, how could I not give Hellraiser a Metal Claw? This movie is a classic for many reasons. It really did have fantastic sets, effects, performances, and a very courageous and cunning final girl in Ashley Lawrence's Christy Cotton. It had a plethora of chilling villains and a score that became an instant classic. So in the end, guys, you know, I love Hellraiser. Alright guys, that has been my review of Clive Barker's 1987 classic Hellraiser. What do you guys think of the OG Hellraiser movie? Let me know down in the comments down below. Obviously, I really enjoy this film. Very well made, and I'm having a great time so far. We have, what, 10 more films to cover in this massive series. It's gonna be a journey, and I'm glad you guys are here with me. Speaking of being here with me, if you like this video, make sure you give it a like. Get down in that comment section down below, and if you want to see my future content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the notifications to all, that way you get notified about all my future videos, and that does include my review of Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. This movie is crazy. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think this is the one that I've watched the most. But with that being said, I told you guys that I was going to break up my Hellraiser reviews with individual reviews on the channel. And when I sat there and thought about it, I came up with a better idea. So what I'm going to do is, yes, individual reviews in between the Hellraiser series reviews, but what I'm going to do is review movies that are either directed by directors of the Hellraiser films or had some of the actors from the previous movie in it. So, the first movie that's going to separate Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 will be Clive Barker's Nightbreed. Yes, and we will be reviewing the director's cut. This movie has been through hell and back, so I feel like this was the perfect one to do as the first in-between in the franchise of reviews here, in the series of reviews that we're doing. So, I can't wait to see you guys in the comments of the Nightbreed review. But most importantly, if you want to check me out on social media, all those links are down in the description box. But also, seriously, most importantly, I'm getting to it. I've been talking forever and I don't want to record this again. I've been Zach. This has been the Cavern of Terror. Stay metal, my friends.